Hi, I'm Jake, 32, and last month my life blew up when my mom told me to stop relying on the family at Thanksgiving dinner. I calmly packed my things, then dropped a financial bomb that silenced the room faster than the turkey got cold. Thanksgiving always used to be my thing. No matter how hectic work got, deadlines, late nights, clients who didn't understand the phrase out of office, I made time to be there. I wasn't the golden child, not by a long shot, but I showed up. Every year. This year felt off from the second I walked in. Allison and Greg had already claimed their usual throne positions on the couch, their kids bouncing off the walls like someone had injected them with pure syrup. My mom barely acknowledged me in the kitchen, where the food looked like something out of a Food Network finale. The moment she said, "We've got it handled. Allison already helped this morning," I should have known I was walking into a trap. But I smiled. Because that's what you do when you've spent your whole life being the responsible one, the quiet achiever, the ATM with a LinkedIn. We sat down to dinner. Greg led Grace, trying to sound like God's favorite deacon. I talked about the promotion I'd earned, managing a team at Morrison & Associates, one of Chicago's top firms. You'd think I said I was doing time. Mom's response? More work. You should really think about settling down. Classic. Then the lake house came up. It was going to Allison and Greg. Of course it was. They had children, therefore they were worthy. I was just a career-obsessed single man with no real contribution to the family legacy. According to Mom. Then came the kicker. They wanted my money to renovate the house I wasn't even allowed to touch. The lake house was worth nearly $400,000 in its decaying state. I'd already earmarked $80,000 of my own savings to restore it. Contractors lined up, permits prepped, all through a shell company that made it look like it was a generous community foundation. I hadn't done it for credit. I did it because I thought it would make their lives easier. Because I was trying to be the kind of son and brother who quietly caught everyone when they fell. So when my mom told me I should just leave, I did. I picked up my coat, walked to the door. And then, in a calm voice that surprised even me, I said, "Just so everyone's clear, the financial benefits you've all been quietly enjoying, they end tonight." And I left them sitting there in stunned silence. Mouths open. Forks frozen. Turkey untouched. They had no idea what was coming next. The moment I stepped outside into the freezing November air, the weight of 15 years of quiet, unacknowledged support started peeling off my chest like armor I didn't know I was wearing. But I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just done. And maybe a little sad. I sat in my car for a full minute before pulling out my phone and calling Rebecca. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, Jake. Everything okay?" "Yeah. Just need to make some changes. And all the payments we set up. Effective immediately." There was a pause. "All of them?" "All of them," I confirmed. "Property taxes. Scholarship fund. Dental foundation. Everything. I'll have to notify the trustees. And I'll need to shut down the shell companies." "You sure?" "I'm sure." She didn't argue. Rebecca had been my financial lawyer for years. She knew better than anyone how much I'd done, and how much it had cost me. Back inside, I imagined the silence still ringing around the table. Allison clutching her pearls. Mom blinking like I just dropped an F-bomb in church. Greg pretending he wasn't calculating how to plug the hole I'd just blown in their finances. They'd never know how much I'd wanted their approval. How long I'd convinced myself that if I just gave enough time, money, silence, they'd eventually see me. Spoiler alert, they didn't. But now they'd feel me. I got back to my condo in Chicago and poured a whiskey. Not to toast, not to numb anything. Just to mark the moment. The next morning, my phone was chaos. 27 missed calls. Dad. Allison. Mom 3 times. Even Greg, which was bold considering he once told me I had big Bachelor energy. Like it was a disease. No voicemails though. Just calls. No one knew what to say yet. Rebecca texted at noon, all payments ceased. Notices sent. Foundations dissolving within 30 days. Let me know if you want me to take press calls, unlikely but possible if IRS audits charitable funds. I replied perfect. Thanks, Rebecca. Then I turned my phone off for the weekend. Let them sit with it. By Monday, a certified letter was waiting on my office desk. From my mom. It read in her perfect cursive. "I don't know what to say. I didn't know. I should have asked more questions. We all should have. I hope you'll call. We miss you. I miss you. No apology. Not yet. But the shift had begun. Later that night, Andrew sat beside me on the couch, silent as I read and reread the letter. You okay? He asked. I nodded slowly. I don't think I've ever been better. And I meant it. I didn't expect Allison to show up in person. 2 weeks after the Thanksgiving meltdown, just as the snow started dusting Chicago with postcard-level charm, I got a call from the front desk of my office building. Mr. Morgan? You have a visitor. Says she's your sister. My first instinct was to say no. But curiosity beat out self-preservation. I told them to send her up. She looked tired. Not her usual suburban mom chic. No perfectly ironed sweater set. No gleaming smile that masked barely concealed judgment. Her eyes were puffy, makeup smudged like she tried and given up halfway. It was jarring, like seeing a magazine ad caught in the rain. Thanks for seeing me, she said softly, stepping into the glass-walled conference room I borrowed from HR. I didn't offer small talk. Didn't ask about the kids or how her seasonal Pinterest decorating was going. I just waited. Greg and I are refinancing the house, she started, her voice rough. We had to. With Mason's tuition and the property taxes, everything's hit at once. I said nothing. Just leaned back in my chair, watching her try to make sense of her own unraveling. Mom and Dad, she sighed. They're talking about selling the lake house. They can't afford the upkeep. Mom's been having episodes. Crying. Saying she didn't mean to drive you away. I tilted my head slightly. Did you come here to guilt me into restarting the payments? No, she said quickly. God, no. That's not why I came. I wanted to say you were right. That made me blink. You were right about everything. She continued. The way we treated you. The way I treated you. I told myself I was the better daughter because I was physically there, because I brought the kids around and helped Mom shop. But you were the one keeping everything from falling apart. Financially. Quietly. While we judged you. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. I resented you for being free, she admitted. For not needing approval. For building a life without playing by the script. So I punished you for it. Her honesty hit like a punch wrapped in velvet. I don't deserve forgiveness, she whispered. But I needed you to know I finally see it. All of it. I sat with that. Let the silence stretch. Then finally I said, I appreciate you telling me that. It means more than you know. But things can't go back to how they were. I don't want them to, she said. How they were was toxic. We didn't hug. We weren't there yet. But she left that room different than she came in. For the first time in our adult lives, we'd actually spoken like equals. Not competitors. Not disappointments. Just brother and sister. And the cracks were beginning to show light. A week after Allison's visit, I met Dad for coffee. He texted me something simple. I'd like to talk. Just us. No guilt, no passive-aggressive punctuation, just sincerity. That alone was enough for me to say yes. We met at this quiet place in Lincoln Park, somewhere neutral, somewhere he wouldn't have to feel like he was betraying Mom by meeting me. He showed up early, already holding 2 cups. Mine was black coffee, no sugar, no cream, just the way I liked it since college. I wasn't sure if you'd come, he said, handing it to me with both hands like he was afraid I'd reject the gesture. I wasn't either, I said honestly. We sat. He fidgeted with the sleeve on his cup like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. I want to start by saying I'm sorry, he said. I should have stood up for you. A long time ago. Not just at Thanksgiving. You've always been steady. Smart. Driven. I knew you were helping, even if I didn't know how. I told myself it wasn't possible, that it had to be luck or some angel investor or… I don't know. But deep down, I suspected. Why didn't you ask? I said, not accusing, just curious. Because if I asked and found out it was you, it'd mean I was letting my son carry burdens I should have handled myself. His voice broke slightly on the word son. He looked so small in that chair, like the years had caught up with him all at once. I was proud, he admitted. Too proud. Your mom, she gets wrapped up in appearances. And how things look from the outside. I just wanted peace. I let her take the lead. And in doing that, I let her mistreat you. I took a sip of the coffee. It was lukewarm now, But something about it still felt grounding. "I've always been proud of you," he continued. "I just didn't say it. And I regret that more than anything." He looked at me then. Really looked. "You didn't deserve what happened. And I hope one day you'll forgive me for not protecting you." I didn't answer right away. My throat was tight in a way I hadn't expected. "I'm not sure I need protection anymore, Dad," I said finally. "I just needed to feel seen." He nodded. "Well, I see you now. I truly do." We talked for 2 hours. About everything. His business. The stress of losing contracts. How close they'd come to defaulting on the house. How Mom had cried herself to sleep more than once without ever telling a soul. It wasn't a clean slate, but it was a beginning. And when he hugged me goodbye outside the cafe, it was the first time I didn't feel like I was hugging a stranger who happened to share my name. Mom took longer. Her first calls were stiff, like she was reading from a script she didn't quite believe in yet. "Just checking in. Hope you're doing okay. We'd like to talk when you're ready." I didn't ignore her, but I didn't open the floodgates either. I kept it polite. Professional. Like I was speaking to a former client who still owed me a project brief. Then, one Sunday afternoon, she said something I never expected. "I started therapy." I nearly dropped my coffee. "You did?" "Yes." Her voice was hesitant. "Dr. Lerner. Your father found him. Said I needed someone who wasn't already on my side." I stayed silent, unsure if this was some kind of emotional ambush. "The therapist says I have control issues," she said, and gave a soft, self-deprecating laugh that didn't sound practiced. "Shocking, I know. Apparently I try to manage people when I feel out of control myself." She paused, and for a second I heard the vulnerability beneath the words. "And when you turned out so independent, so capable, I didn't know how to connect with that. So I criticized it." "I criticized you." My breath caught. Because there it was, the thing I'd needed to hear for 20 years but never thought would come. "I needed you, Mom," I said carefully. "I just didn't need you the way Allison did. And that made you uncomfortable." "I know," she whispered. "I'm trying to see that now." It didn't undo the years of comparison. Of being told I was selfish for missing brunch because of board meetings. Of hearing, "When are you settling down?" like a broken record. Of watching my successes met with lukewarm acknowledgement because they didn't fit her idea of family. But it was something. And something was better than nothing. Over the next few weeks, our calls changed. She asked real questions. She listened to the answers. She didn't interrupt or steer the conversation back to Allison. She even asked about Andrew, really asked, not with passive disapproval, but with interest. It was weird. And weird was progress. Meanwhile, Allison and I kept meeting for lunch. Once a month. Neutral ground. No family drama allowed. And during one of those lunches, she said something that stuck with me. "You know what's funny? Greg and I are actually communicating better now. Not perfectly. But we have to talk. Before, when money was easy, we just threw it at everything. Now we have to plan. Decide things together. It's harder, but it feels more real." She looked up from her soup. "I used to hate that you seemed so free. So unbothered. I thought you were just selfish. But you weren't. You just built your own life. And I punished you for that." "My life isn't better than yours," I said. "It's just mine." She nodded. "I know that now. I didn't restore the financial help. That chapter was over. But I did open new college funds for Ruby and Mason, transparent ones, in my name, no shell charities, no secret gifts. Because the kids weren't the problem. And they deserved stability more than they deserved my silence. The lake house was sold in January. A family from Milwaukee bought it for $385,000. My parents moved into a smaller home closer to town. It was sad and relieving all at once. That Thanksgiving had shattered a fragile illusion. But in its place, something sturdier was beginning to form. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't carrying the whole weight of our family on my back. By March, things that had once felt impossible, actual mutual respect, calm conversations, emotional honesty, became part of my regular life. Sunday calls with Dad were now a staple. We talked sports, stocks, woodworking, and, occasionally, feelings, though only when I brought snacks. He still couldn't quite say I'm sorry without stumbling, but he showed it in the way he listened now. In how he never brushed off my accomplishments, never compared them to anyone else's. He even came to see my condo. Walked through the open-plan kitchen like he was touring a museum. "You did all this yourself?" he asked, staring at the view of the skyline. "Every inch," I said. "No help. No handouts." He looked at me, eyes a little glassy. "It's beautiful, Jake. You built a good life." Those 5 words? Better than any check he could have ever written. Mom's growth was more complicated. She was still learning how to loosen her grip. She'd send me articles. How to reconnect with your adult children. That kind of thing, and ask what I thought. Sometimes I responded. Sometimes I didn't. But she kept showing up. One afternoon, she called to tell me she'd finally apologized to her therapist for treating him like a waiter. "It's a start," she said. "Apparently I've been trying to control everyone around me because I felt like I wasn't in control of myself." Did it help to hear that? It stung, she admitted. But it made sense. I didn't understand how to love you the way you needed. You were so self-sufficient, even as a kid. I didn't think you needed me. I did, I told her. I just needed you to see me. Not shape me. We were making progress, inch by stubborn inch. Allison and I had even started sharing childhood memories without the usual edge. She showed me old photos from the lake house, both of us running barefoot across the dock, popsicles in hand, our faces sunburned and stupid with joy. "I miss this," she said. "Me too." Greg remained civil. Quiet. A little stiff. But at the last family dinner, he refilled my wine glass and asked about my firm's opinion on interest rates. Baby steps. Ruby and Mason? Still innocent and perfect. They sent me hand-drawn cards with crooked hearts and stick figures labeled Uncle Jake, with 6-pack abs. I kept those on my fridge. Obviously. And Andrew. Andrew never asked for a medal, but he earned one anyway. He gave me space to vent, to cry, to say I'm fine when I wasn't. When I told him I was afraid I'd broken my family permanently, he said, "No. You just finally forced them to build their own table instead of eating off yours." It stuck with me. By spring, the whole dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the villain. I wasn't the savior. I was just me, finally, and they were starting to accept that. That's when the accountant reached out. Dad's longtime financial advisor, a soft-spoken man named Mr. Peterson, emailed me asking to meet. He wanted to talk about the long-term tax implications of your anonymous generosity. I laughed out loud reading it. When I showed up to his office, he had binders waiting. Paper trails. Spreadsheets. Years of mysteriously smooth finances my family hadn't questioned because, in his words, "It's easier to believe in coincidence when you don't want to feel indebted. You covered your tracks well," he said with mild admiration. "But you also saved them a lot of heartache. And, ironically, a lot of taxes. Turns out they actually overpaid in a few years because they didn't realize some of their deductions weren't legitimate anymore." I stared at him. "So, what does that mean?" He smiled. "It means they might owe you thank yous and refunds." "Great. Let me know when hell freezes over." We both laughed. As I left his office, he handed me a folder. "You've been incredibly generous, Mr. Morgan. But next time, maybe don't hide it. Transparency is cleaner. Less lonely, too." I nodded, tucking the folder under my arm. Maybe he was right. Maybe next time, if there ever was a next time, I'd give openly. Not because I wanted praise, but because now I knew my worth. 6 months after Thanksgiving, I found myself staring at a photo from Ruby's birthday party. We were all in it. Me, Dad, Allison, even Greg, standing in the background awkwardly but present. My mom had her arm around Ruby, who was holding a lopsided cake with a proud grin. Mason stood beside me, missing a front tooth, his other hand in mine. And me? I was smiling. Genuinely. I didn't realize how rare that had become until I saw it frozen in time. We'd rebuilt something. Not the same as before. Not perfect. But real. The old version of our family had been stitched together with unspoken resentment, unhealthy dependencies, and performative affection. This new version, still healing, still fragile, was built on honesty and consequence. Nobody expected my money anymore. No one asked for donations or hinted at needing help. And strangely, now that they'd stopped asking, I actually wanted to give again, but only on my terms. I'd set up college funds for the kids in my name. Legal, open, unhidden. Allison knew about it. So did Greg. The kids thanked me with glitter cards and photos they drew of us at school, together, like I was some mythical rich teacher figure in their lives. They'd never know how close we all came to never speaking again. Mom and I spoke every Sunday now. She asked about Andrew. She even sent him a birthday card. It was signed, with appreciation, not judgment. He framed it and stuck it on the fridge as a joke. And my dad? He showed up to one of my work events. My firm was celebrating a major merger deal, and he came in a blazer so old it practically had shoulder pads. But he beamed with pride as I gave my speech, then clapped harder than anyone in the room. Afterward, he hugged me. "You built all this," he whispered. "And I finally see it." I think I cried in the elevator on the way back down. Just quietly. No one noticed. Andrew and I took a weekend trip to Lake Geneva in July, the kind of calm, simple trip that used to make me feel guilty for not being around more. But now, no guilt. No pressure. Just freedom. On the last morning there, we sat on a dock, our feet in the water. "You seem lighter," he said. "I am," I told him. "I think it's because you finally stopped trying to earn what you already had." That one hit hard. Because he was right. All that time, I'd been trying to buy respect. Buy family. But respect can't be purchased. Neither can love. It has to be mutual. Chosen. Acknowledged. Cutting off their financial lifelines wasn't revenge. It was revelation. And the best part? Once they saw me clearly, they finally chose me back. Not because they needed me, but because they wanted to. And that was priceless. The Thanksgiving fallout cost me about $110,000. But it gave me back myself. Best trade I've ever made.